Okay, so this is the month of cautionary tales. And so we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to learn a lot. And we're going to hear some funny stories, maybe a little scary stories that might spur us into action. Have there ever been times in your life where it took something unusual to spur you into action? Yes? Okay. I was thinking this morning about little things that I worry about. Who's a worrier in here? Good, thanks for those confessions. I happen to know that's true. So sometimes we worry about little things and they just circulate in our head kind of the same thing over and over. True or not true? And I was thinking this morning that maybe a lot of the things that we worry about are not the important things or the big things. True? So today we're going to talk about some of the big things that we may need to tackle or thought we had tackled, but maybe we're missing something, or some of the big things that we need to think about for our friends and family members, maybe even our great-grandkids. So we have a phenomenal panel lined up today, 5 extraordinary experts that are going to share their knowledge. And I'd like for you to borrow a piece of paper if you don't have one, or raise your hand, maybe somebody from my team can bring some paper around, so that you can take some notes, and also so you can write down some questions, because we are going to take some time to ask the panelists some questions today. We have a wonderful turnout today. Thank you for coming. Beautiful day to come to Botanica. Did you know that coming to our free seminar gives you a free pass to Botanica? And that we really would like for you to at least step out and take a little look each time. And maybe do more than that. Walk to the butterfly building, or go see the merry-go-round. Go see something out there maybe each time. That would make us feel good. That's one of the reasons why we have this as our venue, so that we can open up Botanica for you. This is our city gardens, and we want you to feel a part of it. Who's brand new today, has never been to Empowered Senior before? Awesome. Welcome. We have new people come every time. And today we had just a record RSVP list. Numbers back up pre-COVID, which is really great to see. We're a nonprofit, Empowered Senior, and the more people that come, the more people we're serving, and the more our message is getting out there. And so your attendance is very important to us. And for those of you that are watching live stream or watching this later, please reach out if you have questions or need anything at all. Thanks for watching. I'm Katherine Ambrose. Maybe someone can run the slides for me. I don't have the clicker. Okay, so I'm Katherine Ambrose. This program we started about 4 years ago. I'm a real estate agent by trade. I've been a realtor my whole life. My husband, Randy, back there. Is Jillian here yet? Maybe she's coming, our daughter, Jillian. We are a family team of realtors. We brought Keller Williams Real Estate here to Wichita, and we have a long track record here in Wichita. What I noticed is that I wanted to specialize in something unique and to help seniors, that we see that seniors are having a lot of questions or a lot of issues that come up that we didn't know how to answer. And so I thought, well, we'll start a seminar series, and we'll bring experts up, and I'll get educated right along with you. Brilliant. And it's been a lot of fun. And then something unexpected happened. PBS contacted me and said, would you turn your topics into a television show? That was quite a surprise. And today we have a sister television program. Mindy East, please stand and come up here. Now we have a sister program. Mindy East is the host. Don't stop. And Mindy, what do you say that we are on television, that we are untrained
professionals.
Untrained professionals. I've also heard you say untrained and non-professionals. So people ask me a lot, did we get any training? Did we get any training?
Just by the seat of our pants. And next Thursday, a week from today, is my show. I'm only on once a month. But all you Susan Peter fans ought to tune in. I'm interviewing Susan Peters, Scotty Pierce, and Janice Perkins. So I'm on right after Hatterberg's People and one-on-one with Victor. So I'm in really good company.
That is awesome. Well, we'll tune in. Okay. Very good. So today, I've gone from realtor, which I still am, and I've been working on certifications to help seniors with all kinds of challenges. And I'm a television producer and host. But this is my favorite thing, the seminar, my absolute favorite. This is the heart of everything that we do. Thank you for being here. So, veterans, we'd like to honor you for serving our country, and if you would, any veterans that would like come up front and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Any and all veterans, come on up. Thank you, thank you. All right, and if everyone will please stand, we'll have them lead us in the pledge.
Got more coming to the front.
Okay, we will wait. This is great. And any sponsors that are veterans, come on up. Thank you so much. Let's hear a round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, I'd like my team members to come up real quick. Even Dawnette and Samantha, Bretta, Clyda, I think might not be here. Dee, Brian Spear might not be here yet. Okay, so this is what our team does. This is a mixture of the Empowered Senior Nonprofit team and Ambrose team. Ooh, even Randy's coming up. Who's had a chance to get to work with Randy before? Every day? Okay. And Samantha might still be signing people in. Okay. So I think she'll join us in a second. So what we do free in-home consults, both Empowered Senior on every aging issue that you can imagine, and we do downsizing consults. We provide senior living guidance and resources. We can connect you to the type of professionals that you're going to see here today and the type of amazing professionals that are in the room. We provide downsizing support, which could be just free tips on what to do, or you can hire us to help you do the whole thing or part of it. We're a professional senior move management team. We are credentialed and trained. I'm going to a conference in Philadelphia next month. Going to come back with lots of good information for our team. And I'm also going to the Senior Real Estate Institute conference next week as well. We provide education and then public television broadcasting. We do real estate and aging services and resources. We've gotten really connected with amazing people that have become education sponsors to make this happen. Could we please recognize the sponsors in this room that help us put this on? And Gleason Gooey brought coffee today. That's amazing. We haven't had coffee since before COVID. Thank you so much. That was an awesome surprise to me. And then we all have allied resources outside of this room. So one phone call to any one of us or to our main number, 686-4500, which is on all of our stuff and on our website, that can get you connected to anyone that you might need, any type of service professional you might need, whether it's an education specialist So she helps people understand what all the living options are out there, along with board member Brian Spear, who may be here later. Dee has Busy Dee Bookkeeping. She helps people get their bookkeeping in order. Amazing work. Dawnette is a senior move manager. Randy. Anne is a move manager with us now. She found out about us from coming to the seminars. Dawnette's been here since the beginning. And here comes Samantha. We call her Sam. And Sam has been a move manager since the beginning. Dawnette and Sam have been on a few of our television episodes as well. So this is our team. And no way the seminar would be happening if it weren't for each and every single one of them. And they volunteer their time to put this on. So let's recognize them. Thank you. Okay, next slide. So something new we have is Downsizers Club. It's a small group. You know, this is a big group, and we're mostly talking at you, but we do want you to participate today and ask questions and also write questions on your evaluation forms, which we'll hand out towards the end. And then we'll get you connected to the right people or get your questions answered. But we have a small group session that we do once a month called Downsizers Club. And we have some scholarships available. It's normally $200 a month, and then you get a $200 gift certificate. And for a while, the first members, some of them got $250 gift certificate. But if you want a scholarship for any reason, we do have those available, and you just don't get the gift certificate with it. So that's really a fun thing to do. You get a really nice binder, and it's very enjoyable, and you can work through your own questions and challenges. So that's a really cool program that we started this year. It was about 3 years in the making, and we're excited that we have it going on. We do it at the brand new PBS headquarters. Next slide. These are all of our education sponsors put together, all of our partners that help put on our services, both on television and the seminar. And next slide. These are the companies that directly support the seminar: Mariner Wealth Advisors, Blue Stem Communities, Comfort and Love, Oxford Senior Living, Providence, KMH, the Catholic Charities Adult Day Centers, which is really cool in West Wichita, Morris Lang, Humana, and Village Cooperative. I saw April. Okay, and then television. American Senior Benefits has been sponsoring us since the very beginning. Cherie, hi there. Cherie's the first person I told we were going to do these seminars, by the way. Blue Stem Communities, Sedgwick Plaza, and Fleece and Gooing. So that's who's helping put this on for you. All right, announcements. We have at PBS a senior time management seminar coming up with Chef Greg Cole. And we may have flyers coming. Terry from the station was maybe going to bring those. But these are October 19. It's a Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. at PBS, a live studio audience. The first time that PBS Kansas has attempted to do this, so it should be interesting. You should probably just come for the entertainment. And then Chef Greg Cole, who is so cool, he's going to do time management seminar for the busy senior. Greg is the guy that makes those little cookies. They're really good. And you see those in specialty shops and sometimes at the farmer's market. And anyway, pretty neat deal there. And then, Mindy, can you think of anything else we have coming up? We have Veterans Day. I know, I'm getting ready for that. I made a whole slide. Okay, next slide. Guess what? We're going to Paris. This is our first Empowered Senior trip ever. And this Veterans Day, November 11th, at Village Cooperative's temporary office, which is at the Via Christi Thorne building, and we have flyers. We are giving 2 presentations that day about this incredible once-in-a-lifetime trip that we're taking for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Who's been there before? Who's been to Paris before? Okay, several hands. Who's taken a river cruise before? Oh, okay, enthusiastic, okay. And who's been up and down this river and visited the beaches at Normandy? Okay, a few people. So this is an opportunity for everyone to go at a really great price. Mindy Cook, please stand up. So Mindy East was Mindy Cook. My friend Mindy East was Mindy Cook. The two of them were at the airport. They didn't know each other, and the airline called Mindy Cook to the front. So two women show up. So now they're friends, and Mindy's the travel agent, and she puts these on. So this is going to be an incredible trip. I just put a few photos. Can you just tell them a few places that they're going to see?
Okay, you're going to test my French, and it's not good. We're going to go, we will start in Paris, and we will end in Paris. There is an opportunity to do 2 nights pre in Paris. So we'll start in Paris, end in Paris, have 2 nights pre in Paris if you choose to do that. We will go to Le Havre. We will go to Honfleur. We will visit Monet's Gardens, which is gorgeous. We will go to Giverny. We will spend a day at the beaches of Normandy. You will have the opportunity to visit the American cemetery. You will have the opportunity to visit the Canadian cemetery if you would like to. I'm going to ask you to please come on the 11th at, tell me again where the location. At the Thorn Building, and we will get you that information. You can come and visit with me. You can visit with Mindy. You can visit with Catherine. We're going to do live presentations at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. We have Marcy New, who actually works for the River Cruise Company. She will be there doing live presentations that day. We will have an opportunity for questions and answers. We'll have all the information there that day. So please come. Please let us answer all your questions. This is an excellent opportunity to see this. It's where there's only 140 people on the vessel, so this is a very intimate trip. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip. So please come. Please ask your questions. We would love to visit with you, and we look forward to traveling with you.
Okay, thank you. So that's another thing we've wanted to do for a while. So I think this is a good first one to do. It's 20 months away, so we all have plenty of time to plan. All right, let's get started. Next slide. All right, who's that guy? Art Linkletter. And kids say the darndest things. And you've probably not only maybe saw his show, but other shows where they featured children saying funny things, or videos floating around on Facebook, kids saying funny things. It's, oh no, did I get here without, oh, here they are. All right, so to get us warmed up, we're going to talk about some funny things and maybe not so funny things that adults say. Do you think adults say funny things sometimes? Okay, so we're just going to make a little note of some of those things. All right, funny things people say. Next slide. All right. My kids know my wishes. I raised them, after all. What could go wrong? All my children get along. They will be able to work out the details. Anybody have kids? More than one? It's not like I have much to fight over anyway, so I doubt there'll be any issues. It's our money, so our kids should just be happy that we're leaving them something. Go ahead and laugh about that. Okay. My kids will take care of him when I'm gone. They know how much I love him. I don't care what happens after I'm gone. They can just bury me in the backyard beside the dog. I'm happy to be your trustee. Chances are you'll outlive me anyway. Okay, let that sink in. Not so funny things. Next slide. Some of those weren't very funny, but here's some that might be even less funny. All right, how will I afford this place if he dies and all of our savings goes to his kids? All I have is my Social Security. My oldest son is my power of attorney, and he drained my savings account. How do I get it back? I can see this is working. It's a little scary. All right. I found out when my husband died that he had mortgaged the house. They're threatening foreclosure. What should I do? Mom has dementia and has been convinced by a man 30 years younger than her to marry, sell her home, and buy a house together with him. Can we stop her? My dad died, and everything he had now belongs to my stepmother. Will I get his share after she's gone? I am the trustee for my uncle's estate, and he died 2 days ago. The neighbors called me today to say that there are people moving things out of the house. What can I do? I assume that when one of us dies, the house automatically belongs to the other. That's the law, right? I guess the state will take care of things for me since I don't have anyone I can trust to do it. That probably should have been in the first one, the funny things. I'll just let the state take care of it. So I think we'll hear a little bit about how that goes. So let's please welcome our experts today. Alex, Paula, Jason, Amy, and Gaylin. Come on up.
Here you go, Alex.
Very good. Welcome. Thank you. All right, get ready to take notes. Raise your hand if you need paper. Bretta, watch for hands and see. Let's see if we can find him some paper somewhere. Okay. And again, if you have very personalized questions, you'll have an opportunity to write those on the back of the evaluation form or to request a consultation with anyone. So please do that. Also, after we conclude today at 11:30, we'll take a group photo with the panel, and then you can go for it. Grab them and ask them your questions. Okay, so first of all, I want everyone to know your background and what you do, so they know how brilliant of a panel we have assembled today. Okay, so you're going to introduce yourselves, and then I'm going to ask you the first question, okay?
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. I am Alex Robinson. I am a trust and estate planning and trust and estate administration attorney with Morris Lang. We're downtown by Old Chicago. I've been doing it for almost 3 years now. Prior to this, I served for 3 years as a patrol officer with the Riley County Police Department and 3 years as an infantry enlisted E4, if you know what that is, with the United States Army.
Very good.
I'm Gaylin McGregor. I'm a financial wealth advisor, and I'm with Mariner Wealth Advisors, and we're out at 13th and Webb Road. I've been in the business for more than 30 years.
Hi, my name is Paula Kidd Casey, and I was a divorce attorney for 40 years. And I decided I wanted to use my power for good instead of evil. And I teach a program that helps you understand the power that you have and how you can change anything in your life with the power of intention and thought and energy. And it's very exciting.
Yeah, and I hired her, and she wrote this book, The Lawyer and the Law of Attraction.
Yay,
good.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Bach. I'm an attorney with Fleece and Gooing Law Firm. We're located in the Epic Center downtown at 301 North Main. I am an estate and trust attorney. I not only do planning and administration, but probably the majority of my work is in estate and trust litigation matters. So it's really helped my planning quite a bit to see how things can go wrong and the wheels can fall off the bus after the fact. So it makes you a much more careful planner. But our firm has 25 attorneys. We are a full-service firm, so look forward to the panel discussion today.
Very good. And do you have an associate with you, Amy?
Oh, we do. Sorry, Amy.
Amy, you're welcome to come up here. We have a seat for you if you'd like.
Amy DeWald is also in our estate planning group. Amy's been out practicing for, I've been out 12 years. Amy, 4, she says. Yes. She does primarily estate planning, estate and trust administration work as well. So. Okay.
We do have a seat for you, Amy, if you'd like.
I just have to give a shout out to my associates as well. We've got Jackson and Rachel over there. If I didn't introduce them, I would not hear the end of it. So.
And the amazing thing is that you have several attorneys in the room, and you can go around and ask questions. Is that amazing? So we really, really appreciate that. We'd like for you to visit all of the sponsors in the room, too, because they have educational information that they've brought especially for today. So be sure to grab those items as well. All right. We asked each of you to prepare at least one cautionary tale for the month of October. We normally do scams, but we thought we'd just size it up a notch and go for estate planning. So we're going to have you, we'll start here with Alex, share a cautionary tale to strike a little motivation into all of us.
I'll start with one that maybe isn't cautionary, but shows you just how common it is for siblings to fight. I just met with a family of siblings the other day, 4 of them, and they were all in agreement that they wanted to give the house to the spouse, or to their mom's ex-spouse, because he's still on the mortgage and the note, and they want to take care of him. And when I went and told the other attorneys, every single one of them said, "Is there a dead body in the backyard?" Because family members just don't get along in those situations. In blended families where there's assets that are available, there's almost always a fight. And to show you what I mean, I took a call probably about 6 months ago from a homeless individual, and he told me that he'd heard that his mom had died. He hadn't any first-hand information, but he found out through the grapevine that his mom died. And he said, "My mom is very wealthy. She's got over $1 million, and I'm hoping that I'm in the will." So I did some calling around and figured out who her will was being probated through, and contacted them and got a copy of it on his behalf. And he was not in the will. Everything went to her new spouse that she'd married 2 years before. So he's not getting a dime, and he's still going to be on the street because, you know, I don't know his history. I don't know the mom's history. I don't know what happened there. But we've got a situation where she married somebody new, and someone that she'd known her whole life didn't end up with anything. Now, again, he could have been abusive. There's all sorts of reasons, right? But something that happens very commonly is when there's blended families and new spouses and new family members, everything looks real rosy in the beginning. But after one of the spouses dies, you're probably not going to be in contact with those other kids for very long. And if you don't have your estate plan set up when you pass away, your spouse, who might love you and your children very much, is going to go 5 years, 10 years, 15 years without any contact with your children. Because what naturally happens over time is that there's no more reason for them to be in contact with that new spouse. And what's going to naturally happen is they're going to say, "Well, I haven't heard from, you know, X and Y for the past 10 years. They seem like they're doing good. I don't see any reason to give them anything," and they're going to swap all their estate planning documents and remove them and just include their own children. So everything that you thought was going to go to your children is now going to their children. So if you don't have your estate plan set up correctly, it is very easy for that to happen, and it's something that you and they have no control over. And if you have a child who's got a special need or a disability, or, you know, is just going through a rough time in life, that can be very devastating to hear. So I will leave you on that grim note.
Randy and I see that a lot in real estate. It's very surprising how often we come up with that, where there's a disabled child or an alcoholic or something going on where the parents are supporting 1 or 2 40 and 50-year-olds and not knowing what's going to happen to them later. So it's very, very interesting. Okay. Next one, Galen.
I'm going to chime on to. A lot of times we think about blended marriages, and it's someone who married someone in the last year or two, and that creates disharmony within the family. I'm going to give you one that's real world, and Jason, I'm chuckling a little bit because Jason, as an attorney, I so appreciate our legal friends, because as a wealth advisor, I would tell you the first thing I start with is estate plan. If you get that right, you've got everything right. The money should come second. So with that, I would just tell you, real life scenario, blended family, been married 35 plus years, both had 2 children each, grown, they'd all vacationed together, everyone was getting along. The mother, the wife actually started having some memory issues, and her 2 children decided that there was maybe more money there than they thought there was. And so they went about with some of their stepfather, who they had vacationed with many times. I'd seen them all together. They actually said that they created an elder abuse case against him, and asked for a conservatorship to be established on her behalf, so that they could actually control her funds. And it was really a money play. And I would tell you, it's really pretty sad. I mean, we had 2 people who were absolutely in love with each other. She has dementia issues, has no idea, can't take care of herself. He wants to take care of her. The medical power of attorney, which both of my attorney friends will chuckle, left both her daughter, as well as the second husband, they operated together on the medical power of attorney. They were absolutely not aligned. And it created unbelievable disharmony. And I will tell you, we went all the way to thinking that maybe the 2 should get divorced. She was in a memory care facility, and the kids were actually wanting for her to divorce him because they wanted access to the funds. So when I say things can go awry, even after lots of years of everyone getting along, it's not until, I always say, that first spouse has an issue that you see where really if the family is tied together, or if they've just been pretending for a lot of years. So money gets in the way, but when I look at my 2 legal friends, I'm telling you, if you don't have your estate plan in order, get it in order first.
Very good.
And I may not be a legal friend, but I'm not an illegal friend either. But so I've seen it from both ways, right? I was a divorce attorney for 40 years, and blended families was probably the number 1 reason for a divorce, because everybody comes in with their own kids, and they come in with their own ideas of what's going to happen, and it's very, very difficult, right, to blend 2 families with kids. So if we're at this age and you still have a blended family, I mean, I think that's wonderful. That speaks to your tenacity and getting the big picture. But what I have dedicated my portion of the life is, I realize financial planning is extremely important and estate planning is extremely important. But what I realized after so many years of conflict and competition and devastation, when people are fighting each other, and it's always over money, right? They're always fighting over money, that there is no good answer, right? Getting prepared and being proactive with these professionals is wonderful. But what I have come to find out, and I know it sounds crazy and it's rainbows and unicorns, but there is a power. And remember when Catherine asked you who worries? So worry is an emotion, worry is a vibration, right? When we're in that, we can't get into any kind of planning or anything. So I have discovered, which is already out there, a set of natural laws that is like the power of intention and the power of thought. And when you get those things in alignment with yourself, right, then you are in such a better position. You're not in competition. You're not worried about that the kids are going to fight each other. What I teach is that we get to this higher level of knowledge of ourselves and of the universe and how we connect to all these things. And when we change our attitudes, right, it stops us from having all of these negative things that happen in our lives. So I don't really have a cautionary tale, except I had 40 years of cautionary tales of people fighting over money. And I realized that when we can get proactive and understand that we have this ability to decide how we are going to live our lives and this power of intention, it changes everything. And so I think my category is the one thing that is the most important, because when you understand, one of the things that happens, right, is we carry grudges. Whether we know it or not, we carry grudges. And all that does is, an old philosopher says, being angry is like drinking poison and expect the other person to die, right? anger, worry, hate, guilt, in blended families, and in not blended families, because that can get ugly, right? When we have that energy, that is when the cautionary tales come. When we learn, and once again, I know this is crazy, but understand, I was an attorney, I saw this forever. This is based on science and quantum physics. When we get to the point of forgiveness, all this other stuff kind of just falls into place, and we can go into it more. But my cautionary tale is our first line of attack in what we're doing is understanding the power that we have with our emotions, our thoughts, which in turn changes everything with our actions.
Awesome.
Well, I'm a bit of a windbag, so I'm going to give this to Amy first so she can cut my mic if need be and not miss out on Amy's opportunity.
So again, I'm Amy DeWald. I'm an attorney at Fleece and Gooing. I'm going to let Jason handle a lot of the scary stories and family stories that he has. I'm going to focus a little bit on the estate planning aspect of what we do. And thankfully, I do a lot of that, and most of it hasn't turned into scary stories or has been able to be settled, or I'll involve Jason, and he'll get things done too. But when we get new clients, we schedule an initial conference and sit down and talk back and forth, ask as many questions as possible, because we recognize each situation is very unique. And we'll ask, questions about family, questions about your wishes. And one thing recently I've learned, maybe ask about your prized possessions or your family heirlooms, or just maybe a little something interesting that you think your kids may fight over when you're gone. Because we recently had a case, and a stepmom and two children were fighting over an Easter Bunny suit. Because the father had worn this suit, every holiday season. He was known in the community. It was a huge item that they had tons of memories surrounding this Easter Bunny suit. And so when he passed without a will or a trust or any direction, it really caused a lot of turmoil in this family. And they've spent a lot of time and money trying to figure out how to agree on where this Easter Bunny suit's going to be. So we've learned through the process, and we know what questions to ask, and we're happy to help with any estate planning needs you may need. As far as the more entertaining stories, I'll pass over to Jason.
All right. Well, I'll share a couple. I want to first just sort of give everyone a general idea. We, as estate litigators, we look at these types of cases, and we see a lot of them, and they come generally in three different types of scenarios, and we've talked about some of them already. It's the blended family. It's the stepmom, the stepkids, or the stepdad and the stepkids. There's issues oftentimes, unsurprisingly, can arise in those situations. The other time, a sibling rivalry when mom and dad are both gone. People at times sort of delude themselves about how well their children get along, and sometimes the kids keep it from mom and dad, and it's that matriarch or patriarch that was really holding everything together, and as soon as that's gone, things fall apart. And some of that, understand that these often come, well, almost always come in times when passions are high. Everything is amplified after a death of a loved one. And so, particularly with siblings, it's often not what happens. These kids may be, and I call them kids, I haven't found a better way to refer to them, but kids who are in their 50s and 60s, they're fighting not about what is going on currently. It's about something that happened in the sandbox, when they were kids, and this stuff has existed. And so I think parents really need to recognize that if that exists, do your family a favor and get your affairs in order. And also, with respect to siblings, if you're going to have an estate plan in place, such as a trust that's going to continue on for some time after your life, and your children don't always get along, please, 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 I'm begging you on behalf of the child who you like the best, who you're going to put in charge, don't. Because they have a target on their back. They now become a fiduciary for their children. They owe a duty to their siblings. If that sibling that doesn't get along with them, that was your ne'er-do-well child, your black sheep, well, they get to go get a lawyer and then, be ticky-tack about everything that your trusted child is maybe technically doing wrong with respect to the administration. And the third is really sort of hard to address if it's affecting you. Really look out for other people in this regard, and that's the third party sort of intervener. I call him the carpetbagger, who comes in and starts befriending the person. Maybe it's a caregiver, maybe it's a neighbor. We had a case where there was a gentleman in a different county who made it a habit. He was in his 40s, made it a habit to go to the skilled nursing facilities and the assisted living homes and just sort of hang out with the older ladies there. And invariably, he got his name in a number of wills and estate planning. One of them, we had a large public university who we represented to recover a bequest that he attempted to glom onto. So those are really the three scenarios, and I think that a lot, attention should be paid, and there's certainly ways to plan for those situations. But I guess I'll give two quick examples. One is just a horrific tale of people like Amy and I and other lawyers on the panel get involved, and we're not cheap when things drag out and when families want to fight. And I like to think that I'm always on the side of good and I'm always resisting the side of evil, but there's always some nuance there for sure. But we had a farming couple who went to a seminar that told them they needed a revocable trust so they could avoid probate. Okay, so they went to the local county lawyer who wasn't an estate planning specialist, but it's difficult to practice law in small towns. You've got to be spread thin. You've got to do a lot of different areas. Paid him a couple $1,000s to get this trust in place. It wasn't drafted right. There were some errors in it. When Dad passed away, Mom was supposed to be trustee. It wasn't drafted that way. One of the sons was named as trustee. It was a mistake. Well, son didn't know what a trust even was. And Mom said, you sure as heck ain't taking care of things around here while I'm alive. So this continued for 10 years. Mom died, and now the siblings, a couple of them sitting on the sidelines waiting to pounce on son, who was a trustee for 10 years. People were telling him to sign things and put trustee after his name. He didn't know what any of that meant. And the case finally settled, but I will be embarrassed to say the legal fees were 6 figures between all of the attorneys. And it didn't start with one either. It went on for 2 or 3 years, all because the family, the couple wanted to avoid probate. So I have when I talk to my clients about their estate planning, if avoiding probate's the only thing you want to do, we can find better ways to do that. And my last quick story will just be one that is not as hard on the bank account, but it will just make you scratch your head and wonder what's wrong with people. Siblings did not get along. There were 3, I believe. All 3 had different counsel. This is one where my client was not the one who is a part of the story I'm about to tell you, but they could not get along, and so a third-party administrator needed to be hired at $100 an hour to administer the estate. Already we've got expenses. Already we've got them all 3 with an attorney. So we've got expenses just because they can't get along. They can't be in the same room with one another. The third-party administrator had the estate sale at Mom's house. Everything sold that could sell, and the stuff that was left goes to DAV or Goodwill or goes to the dump, including 6 cans of home canned pickles that the administrator just gave to one of the children who was there. And word got out that this child had these pickles, and the other 2 said, that's not fair. There's 6 jars of pickles. There's 3 of us. We each are entitled to 2. So all the attorneys, of course, start emailing and phoning one another. The third-party administrator lived out of town. He had to drive in. One of the attorneys needed to meet with them. By the time it was all said and done, I don't think $1,000 was spent on these pickles, but it was pretty darn close. So just, if they're, don't be too rosy-eyed about the situation. Look at it with eyes wide open and plan for it.
Great stories. All right, so that was a new story for me as far as a 40-year-old man going into assisted living and befriending the women in there. You know, we know that kind of thing happens online. I have a friend who had a janitor at a medical facility befriend him and his wife and start taking coffee to them every single day. And guess who owns millions of dollars worth of property today and pays cash for his vehicles and for those of his chosen people? The janitor. And so that's one reason why we have these seminars, is that we make all of our decisions that we need to make way in advance. The number one thing that people say to me when they call me is, I'm probably not ready yet, or it's probably too soon. I had a lady yesterday, her husband's 90, she's 86. She described her health issues, and she said, it's probably too soon. Well, what am I thinking? It's probably awfully darn late. And, you know, I'm wondering if they have some of these other things taken care of. So we've had all kinds of things that we've come up with. Grandkids that move in and never move out again, like a sweet 16-year-old granddaughter moves in and never leaves. And she ends up getting married and having children. Next thing you know, grandma pays for the house, the electricity, all the utilities, all the groceries, everything. She can't really go to lunch with her friends because she has to be home to get the kindergartner off the bus. And she would just like to have her house back. Do you think that's easy? So there's just all kinds of things that talk about pickles. People getting themselves in a good pickle. All right. So what is a guardian and what is a conservator?
A guardian and a conservator have the same duties but split in terms of what each of them does. So a guardian is in charge of the person. So they can make medical decisions, they can do, take people to appointments, those types of things. And a conservator is someone who is in charge of the finances of who we call the principal. So they're the person that it needs care and needs assistance, and so a lot of times the guardian and conservator will be the same person, but it's not required, and some people will change it up. And so it really just kind of depends on the situation and what you need and what you feel comfortable with, because you might have someone in your family that you know is really good with money, and that doesn't necessarily mean being tight with money, but it means being good with money and knowing what you need and what maybe you don't need. And then you have someone that you know will help you with all of the things that you need from a physical standpoint in terms of appointments and medical visits and all of those types of things.
Okay. Professionals in the room, I'm sure you probably have some cautionary tales going through your own minds, and so get those in your head, because I'll come around and ask each of you to share as well. How about what you've heard so far? Does that have some questions in your mind? Okay. Bretta, we have a question back here. If you'll run the mic to people. It's amazing to have 3 microphones. Who's been here since the beginning? 4 years of one mic. And now, look at us.
Hi.
We're so fancy.
Hi. I was just wondering, no one in my family is good with money. In fact, all my parents are madly in debt, and they all have serious health problems. So if they croak tomorrow, if they were to all die at the same time. Now my parents are divorced, my dad's remarried, and he and my stepmom are both really in bad health, and they don't take care of themselves at all. So I mean, they don't care what the doctor says or anything. And they leave behind all this debt. Who's responsible for the debt?
So the estate of that person is responsible for that debt. You wouldn't be responsible for that debt. And it really comes down to what we call the 6-month non-claim statute. So creditors have 6 months from the date of someone's death to make a claim against the estate. They're not entitled to the money automatically. They have to go through a court proceeding to do it. If they don't do that, unless it's Medicaid, Medicaid gets 1 year. For everyone else, they have 6 months. If they don't make a claim against the estate and you've opened it and you've done everything that you're supposed to do, then that claim gets wiped out at 6 months. I actually had a case about 1.5 years ago where the credit card company made the petition in the court 6 months and 1 day, and the court said, no, go away. And they were very happy about that. Because a lot of states are 1 year or 2 years, and so you get these big credit card companies, and they're not up to date on what Kansas does. And so a lot of times, yeah, if you're worried about that from a personal standpoint, you don't need to be, because you will never be responsible for the debt of someone else unless you're, a guarantor, a co-signee, a joint owner of the account that for whatever reason there's going to be a claim there. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about that.
Anyone else?
Catherine, we had a
Great
question over here.
Okay.
You mentioned 2 terms that I had not heard, but they sounded like the medical power of attorney and then just the regular power of attorney. How are they connected?
I don't want to hog the mic, but I know the answer. I'm just letting someone else take it.
Is it the 2 words that you were was it guardian and conservator? Okay. You just mentioned you heard 2 terms, but oh, okay.
I think it's the difference between a guardian and conservator and
Right.
powers of attorney.
Right. So power of attorney documents are typically drafted in accordance with the other state estate planning documents. So when we draft wills and we draft trusts, we also draft a medical power of attorney for financial decisions, a medical power of attorney for medical decisions, and then also a power of attorney for financial decisions. And so what that does is those are effective during your lifetime, and you can name an individual or maybe 2 individuals to help you and assist you to make decisions during your life. And it can be when you still have capacity and still make your own decisions, but you need someone to assist you with, for example, just paying your bills, or if you have assets you want to sell, it allows a person to help you and handle that for you. There could come up a very wide range of things that need to be done on your behalf. Medically, just picking up your prescriptions, or speaking to your doctors and having a person who can get your health information and help you make decisions that would be best for you. And so with those documents, you can name a trusted individual, whether that's your spouse, a child, someone, like I said, that you trust, that can help you along the way. Those only are during your lifetime. When you pass away, those are considered no longer good documents, and that's when we look to your will and trust for who you've named to handle your estate. But we highly recommend those documents. I personally have those documents, and if I am to have a doctor's appointment or go into a surgery or something, I know even temporarily I have a person named to speak with the doctors and to ask questions. So, like I said, at any age you can have these documents, and we highly recommend them.
Okay, so did you catch that? We'll get back. We will answer that. But did you catch that at any age? So your 18-year-old great-granddaughter needs these documents. Okay, so you're learning something to share with your entire family. All right.
I still don't understand how these connect.
Sure.
Are they related?
All right, so a guardianship and a conservatorship.
So a power of attorney, whether it's a healthcare or general power of attorney, those agents are appointed by you when you meet with your attorney and set up your estate planning documents. A guardianship and a conservatorship are appointed by the court through a court proceeding. So, for example, let's say you get in an accident on your way home today. You don't have a power of attorney set up, and someone needs to make medical and financial decisions on your behalf. If you don't have those documents, then your children or your spouse or whoever is close to you would need to petition the court to become your guardian and conservator to be able to make those decisions on your behalf from a legal standpoint.
So I'm sorry, go ahead and finish your.
I was just going to say, so healthcare and general durable powers of attorney are set up and appointed by you, and they're the people that you choose to be in those positions. Guardians and conservators are chosen by the court. Now, you can have someone that petitions to be those, but the judge ultimately gets to decide whether or not that person needs to be in that role.
Okay, so does that answer your question? We're going to stay on that subject a second because I think this is very, very, very important. I spent about an hour and a half talking to a woman that works here in town, has a conservator and is a guardian, and she's appointed by a judge. And she has a certain way that she does things and a certain way that she believes is her way, the way that you would want. You've never met the judge that has assigned her to be in charge of your life, to be in charge of all of your money, to be in charge of all of your medical decisions. You probably don't know the judge. So when you don't make a decision to take care of things, that is a decision. You're making a decision to not take care of things. And that goes back to what I was saying about we worry about things that maybe aren't quite necessary to worry about, not healthy to worry about, when we don't take care of the big things, and then things spiral out of control. So we're Empowered Senior. Our goal is to educate, equip, and empower you so that you're in control of your life. You're in control of your health, your medical, and your financial decisions. And if you don't take control, legal control, and make sure you've done it absolutely correctly, somebody else is going to be in charge. And it might not be your daughter or your son. It might not be the person that you would want. So this is very serious.
I'm gonna pose a question if I can,
Great.
because I'm gonna lean on my legal friends. But I think what I hear a lot is I don't have a son or a daughter or a family member that's equipped or that I trust, or they don't get along, and I don't want to create disharmony in the family. Will one of you on the legal side talk a little bit about corporate trustee and give them an option of if they don't have that in their family?
Okay, great question. Thank you, Galen.
Sure. So it is always a tough situation if there's not somebody there who's available, who's a trusted family member. And I advise my clients, one thing we do is we name not only one individual, but if there's multiple, maybe a successor if they can't serve, and then maybe a successor after that. But I encourage my clients to not scrape the bottom of the barrel to get that to make that list long, because that person very well may be serving. So don't if you have 3 kids, this is the most trusted, this one's okay, this one I don't really trust, so I'll name him 1, 2, 3. No, don't do that. If this person is not somebody you would name as number 1, don't name him as the 3rd in line either. Because I've seen that happen quite often. But if there's not those individuals available, there are third parties who are willing to serve in that capacity. Now, unfortunately, there are not a lot of financial institutions that like to take on that role unless the estate is of a certain size. And that's just a reality. There are some in town who will deal with smaller estates. But we have trusted individuals in our community that our court regularly appoints. They're not going to be somebody you know, but they're going to be people who are experienced in this area. They've been doing it for many years. They have great bedside manner. They know how to interact with family members, communicate well information about you with respect to people who have a right and a reason to know. And it also comes with a cost as well. They charge for their services, but they're professionals. You're not going to have the situation where all the money shows up missing. They're going to be insured. Another advantage of having a corporate fiduciary, if your situation is such that it makes sense to hire a corporate fiduciary like a bank or a trust company, you're going to pay a little more, but the service is going to be impeccable. They are professionals. This is what they do. They have a commercial interest to make sure you're happy with how the service they're providing, that your family's happy with the service they're providing. And so I find that institutional trustees are very quite responsive and a very good tool if that's financially feasible. But there are individuals, retired bankers, retired CPAs. There's a couple individuals in the community that have just served in this role, and they have for many years. So there are options there.
And so you can be.
Sure. So institutions are typically a percentage, and it could be 1 to 1.5% of the estate that they're managing on an annual basis. Now, the problem is that there are minimum fees, and so if the estate is, if the estate is, say, and I talk in terms of, what is a lot of money is different to a lot of different people. Just because Amy and I are attorneys, we haven't been attorneys long enough to, we still think what some would call a modest sum is a lot of money. So don't get me wrong, but an estate of $400,000 or $500,000, if that's in retirement assets, that's in your house, these are assets that'll be managed. Banks look at that as kind of a small estate. A lot of them like the $750,000 to $1 million in assets that they're managing. And if you get too small, if you get to a $500,000 estate, and I know I throw around this term small, and but in their eyes it is, their fees start to become a little cost prohibitive. It may be $10,000 or $15,000 a year minimums, where in those situations I would be looking more for a professional fiduciary, and they are trusted. We have some in the community who have been appointed for 20, 30 years by our courts, great reputations, and then they'll usually charge somewhere between $80 to $125 an hour, which is not cheap, but they're oftentimes very judicious with their time, and they, some of them have assistants that they work with that they try to, utilize when they can, so that they're not doing things that an assistant or some of their staff could help with. You can name them. I mean, you can name them in a trust. Now, it's a good idea to, reach out to them first, make sure that they're okay with serving, and oftentimes they're more than willing to do so. And we utilize them a lot in situations in administering estates when the siblings can't get along, there's nobody to be, they just won't agree to one another, and the judge realizes we just need a third party, an independent third party.
Okay.
How does that work if you have an individual that's monitoring the finances, like you're talking about, and that person passes away?
Well, then in that case, so when we set up estate planning documents, you'd name somebody to serve in these roles. And again, that's where I talk about successors. It's nice to, if this person declines or is otherwise unable to serve due to death or disability or for whatever reason, to name additional people who will be in line. And if you run out, then we often include a provision in our documents that say, go to the judge, the probate judge in the county, not a court proceeding, but approach him as an individual, and just due to his experience with these types of matters, and have him appoint somebody.
So be very careful who you name and have backups, and make sure you've got that they know what they're getting into and that they're agreeable. Okay.
I have a question. In my health care power of attorney, it's real simple. Pull the plug and let me go. Some months ago, we heard from another attorney who had a seemingly inexhaustible list of drugs that could be administered in near terminal decisions. How much is enough?
What do you mean by how much is enough?
Do I really need to have a list of drugs that administer this but don't administer that? Whatever.
I see. So we have a couple of different things, an advance directive, or a living will, a DNR. Let's make sure we're talking about the right documents, because if you're talking from a first responder standpoint, first responders, practically speaking, are always going to administer aid. They're not attorneys. They're not going to check documents unless it's an expected death where, you know, they've been in contact with EMS and 911, and they say, hey, you know, my dad's got terminal cancer. He's been given 3 days to live. We're going to call you when he dies, but we're not requesting anything. If you call 911 or someone calls 911, EMS or fire or the police are going to administer first aid. If you're in the hospital, they're going to have a much different approach where they're going to know, hopefully you're in contact with your doctor and have provided those documents. If it just says, I don't want life-saving measures to be taken, that should cover all of the drugs that someone talked about. Where you get into a bind is where you start being specific and you say, I do want this, I don't want this, and what happens kind of falls in that middle area. Then the doctor is going to look out for himself first, which they kind of have to do, and they're going to do whatever they're told is in their best interest to protect themselves from a lawsuit from you or from your family because you said, hey, I don't want this to happen, and this happened. So it's more of a practical than a legal concern at that point. All you can do really is have the documents in place and be in contact with whoever is administering your care.
Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, so it's very important that you have someone to speak for you because the doctors usually are going to do every single thing until the family says enough. And that's been our experience in our family. And once you say enough, the doctors are like, whew, okay, then this is what, it's like, well, why didn't you just tell us that to begin with? I mean, they will keep doing every single thing to keep the family members happy. Okay? So, and we've talked about care management before in the book, The Fragile Years. I'll be right back, Greg. So we just aired a program the other night, and I've had a lot of phone calls. So people have been going to Barnes & Noble trying to get this book, The Ultimate Guide to Downsizing. It's not in Barnes & Noble, but you can buy it on Amazon. Also, The Fragile Years, written by Amy Cameron O'Rourke. She was in the first 2 episodes of season 3. Highly recommend that book for every professional in the room and every attendee in the room. That book will help give you some insight. And there's a business called Care Management where individuals can help guide the family through some of these medical decisions. I imagine that you all get involved in that to some extent. So Greg Dane has a question here.
So changing gears for just a second, I'm going to describe a scenario to you. Mainly this question is for the attorneys. Adult children have the mindset that they want to move mom or dad or both to assisted living or independent living. Mom and dad are not on board. How can mom and dad protect themselves in that situation if they're still of sound mind?
Great question. I just had a client in tears the other day. Her kids made her buy a house, and they're making her move into that house, and she doesn't want to leave the house that she's in. It's really sad.
I'll start the answer, and then I'll pass it over. I would say, no one can make you do anything if you're an adult and that all your assets are in your own name. They can't call up the place and say, hey, move mom and dad. Even if the power of attorney is valid and active and they're a current power of attorney for you, they can't override your wishes if you have capacity. So even if they have the ability to go to your bank and withdraw money on your behalf to pay bills, or they have the ability to get your healthcare information from your doctor to pick up prescriptions or whatever it is, if you still have capacity and you don't want to go, they can't force you to. Now, again, legal versus practical, if the healthcare, wherever it is, for whatever reason, thinks that you don't have capacity, then they'll probably lean on whoever has the power of attorney to say. So if they say, mom and dad are crazy, they don't know what they're talking about, they need to go in the home, and that's their frame of reference, and then they come out and someone's yelling and screaming at them to leave, they're like, okay, yeah, they're crazy, they need to go into the home. So it's really important if they're in that situation to think about removing them as powers of attorney and giving that power to someone else so that they're not in a situation where it can be framed, we're doing this for their good, even though that's not what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. And there's also the practical part of just mom and dad saying what they're told, you know, they just go along with it. And even though it's not their wishes, we've had it both ways, where the kids are forcing mom and dad, or maybe just mom, to make a move they don't want to make, or Granny's all excited about where she's going to go to live with her friends, and the kids are doing every single unbelievable thing to stop it from happening, because they're so worried about what's going to happen with the real estate and with the money, and they don't want Granny to make her own decision. So, Greg, did that answer your question? So Greg had a placement company and was involved in a lot of scenarios, I'm sure, just like that. Next question, or story, or share.
Okay, so there's a lot of people that have only one person, whether that be a kid, a family member, a friend, just that one person that handles everything before and everything after the death. Is that one person able to have all of the titles that you talked about? And if so, what are the problems that they need to think about, or what is it that they need to delegate or figure out somebody else to handle that they may come across?
Well, sure. If there are options, you know, our founding fathers taught us checks and balances are good, and I talk to my clients about that as well. You know, at times there is one trusted person, and they want them to handle everything. But with that, there's a risk. I ask them to not just think of that person, but think of their kids, think of their spouse, think of people who may influence them and what their decisions are. So it's certainly not a bad idea to have multiple people serve in different roles. Now, can they? Absolutely. I mean, it's very common to have for an individual to appoint the same person they want to serve as their attorney in fact under a power of attorney document to also serve as executor under the will. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, when we talk about a will situation, there are checks and balances there if there are other heirs or beneficiaries involved, because they're entitled to notice of certain things that are taking place. Also, as a power of attorney, there are rights of other interested parties to actually, and again, we're involving courts and lawyers, so it's not just something that's done easily, but somebody serving as an attorney in fact under a power of attorney document, they can be required to account to family members in the event that the principal is disabled. And so it's good to sometimes, you know, at least I have that conversation with my clients whenever they're talking about appointing one person. Well, explore options of maybe having two people serve together.
Very good. So we've heard before about 5 essential documents. They're give or take, but I have in my brain, I've memorized that much. There's 5 essential documents. So fill in the blank, quick answer, pass the mic up and down. What are the 5 essential documents that everybody needs? I'll be right back, Carl. Alex, what are the 5?
Am I doing all 5 or one?
Yeah.
Will.
Good.
Okay.
Healthcare power of attorney.
What I do is crazy.
Well, a trust is a good idea, but I would say it's 4 with an asterisk or 5 with an asterisk, because I don't think everybody needs a trust, but a trust would fall into that category.
You said will, healthcare power of attorney, trust, financial power of attorney, and then a living will, which is also oftentimes referred to a declaration.
Okay. So Alex, recap that. What are the 5?
Will, trust, healthcare power of attorney, general durable power of attorney, and living will or declaration.
Thank you. Okay, Carl Turner. will, trust, durable power of attorney
For healthcare.
for healthcare,
And for financial.
and then another one for financial,
And then living will.
and then a living will. Okay. So will, trust, 2 power of attorneys, one for medical, one for financial, and the other is living will.
The wife and I, about 25 years ago, created a trust, a living trust.
Okay, I think we turned it off. Okay.
In your opinion, should that trust be reevaluated with the change of laws in Kansas and whatever?
Okay, as the non-
A show of hands, if you did it 25 years ago, do you think we should review it with an attorney? Okay.
I'm going to say as the non-legal person sitting in the panel, I always say if you have a financial advisor, if they're doing their job, they should be reminding you of that when you're talking about all of your finances all the time. And I would tell you the people sitting in this panel, I refer business to because of exactly that. You want to keep it up to date, current.
Okay.
This is a loaded question. Should I go back to the original attorney or maybe one of you guys?
Okay, so you got a bunch of attorneys up here. I know what they're going to tell you. Here's what I would say, as a non-legal person, make sure you have a relationship with your attorney. They'd say the same thing as well. Make sure there's someone equipped to deal with your situation. What's the complexity? What's the level of need you have? Different attorneys have different strengths, different weaknesses. So I always say part of that is making sure that you feel comfortable and that you really understand your document. Because I have people that say, I've got this document and I have no idea what it means. You want a relationship with your attorney that you understand that document.
Haven't seen him in 25 years.
Yes. So the one thing that you...
So I'd say, meh, because why aren't they trying to see you? Why aren't they staying in touch? Are they still alive? Are they still practicing?
So for my legal friends, will you guys talk about a restatement? I think a lot of times people say, do I have to start over? So if I take my document in and Alex is the person doing it, does it look different? What's a restatement?
Okay. Well, you're getting ready. Get ready. Because I just went and start. I
getting
want to
ugly.
talk about Galen's face a second.
Sure. So
Okay.
an update is good from time to time,
he's off and
particularly if
running.
there's changes in in your personal circumstances. And after 25 years, there oftentimes is. And so it's good to at least reevaluate if the decisions you made then are still appropriate now. You may have just had kids then. Maybe they were minors. Now they're grown. Now they have kids of their own. And so there could be different considerations. You don't have to start from scratch. I will tell you what we would often do is if I had somebody come in with a trust that was prepared by somebody else, I would often do what's called a restated trust, where I basically do the whole new trust. Now, that doesn't mean I'm sitting down burning the midnight oil on a typewriter, retyping a whole new trust for you. But what I tell my clients is if I'm looking at a 30, 40, 50-page trust from another attorney, and you're maybe asking me to do an amendment to it, trusts can be tricky. If you have one, your eyes gloss over at page 8 or 9. And so we're better equipped to do that. But if I have a trust from an attorney and I didn't prepare that trust, sometimes there can be things hidden in areas that are going to affect the way that I would do an amendment for. So I would also often do a restated trust. You don't do an entirely new trust because if you did what you were supposed to do when you set up the trust, you funded it with your house, with your other property, you retitled assets. And so by doing a restated trust or even doing an amendment to the trust, you don't have to go through that retitling process again because the restated or amended trust is still the same trust. There's some advantages of going back to the attorney who prepared the trust because it's going to be their document. They're going to have a working knowledge of it. But certainly, I see a lot of trusts that have been prepared by other lawyers. And the example I used before about the country lawyer who was a great guy, but this was not his area, and he prepared a trust that caused the family to incur incredible expense. Well, it didn't cause it. There was bad actors involved, but it opened the opportunity for somebody to capitalize on these errors and these ambiguities and mistakes.
Okay, so it makes sense to work with a specialist, somebody that's not a general practitioner. Like in real estate, there might be 2,800 realtors in town. They're general practitioners. Randy and I are specialists in working with seniors, and in my opinion, we're the only ones. And so make sure you're working with the right people. If you need brain surgery, you don't go to the back surgeon. You get with the right person. So I said I wanted to talk about Galen's face. So this was an idea I had a couple comments ago, and that is, I hope you're doing business when it comes to wealth advising, financial planning, estate planning, insurance. Where's Cherie? Where's the blonde curly hair lady? Come up here. These are faces. You can consult and do business with faces, real life people that live in your town versus a 1-800 number department or division. You do not have a relationship with a division. You do not have a relationship with a department. Get relationships with specialists that are local, that you can go see them face to face, and that they know your face, and they want to be there for you. Does that make sense?
And to piggyback off that, we had someone who said, wait a second, say all those again, you went way too fast. And I love that. If you're going to an attorney and either they make you feel uncomfortable when you ask a question and they act like that you're putting, making them work harder or whatever it is, you're with the wrong person. You should feel comfortable saying, well, now wait a second, I don't understand these terms, or I don't understand what this does, or why is this included in there? They should be happy to explain that to you, and they should be explaining it to you as part of their process, because I know that before I was an attorney, I didn't understand any of this stuff. And when I'm working with someone, they could be a doctor, they could be an engineer, they could be a professional that's way smarter than me, but they don't know about this area because that's not what they've spent their life doing. So if you don't feel comfortable asking questions to your attorney, you need to find a new one, because you need to feel comfortable with someone to say, well, now wait a second, before I sign this or before we do, we execute these documents, I want to ask some questions so I know what's going on.
Okay, so work with people that feel comfortable. Galen comes to your house and she'll visit with you. Cherie comes to your house. Cherie, what's coming up in the insurance world?
Annual enrollment period. That is Saturday, officially October 15th, and it goes until December the 7th. So anybody that knows me knows that there's a few rules I tell everybody. Stop answering your telephone. Stop calling the number on the commercials. And stop listening to your friends, unless your friends are sending them to one of us. Because there's just so much misleading things that are happening. So I will tell you briefly a new law that Medicare just put into place as of October 1st. So the commercials you saw on TV with Joe Namath and Jimmy Walker, they made us all crazy. Well, they were so misleading, and Medicare was inundated with complaints. The Medicare said, okay, fine. New law, October 1st, you must record everything you do over the phone with somebody, whether they're your clients or they're new to you. You have to read a little thing and you have to record it. Not only does it have to be recorded, but it has to be stored for 10 years in a HIPAA compliant location. That being said, if somebody calls you on the telephone, don't talk to them. Talk to somebody local. Talk to somebody you know. Get a referral. I always tell people, if you're having problems with your car, do you take it to your hairdresser? No, you take it to your mechanic. You take it to the person that does that for a living. Also, I have a lot of clients that have children or people that aren't clients that say, no, my kids handle that. Great, what do your kids do for a living? Oh, they're an engineer. Do they do insurance? No. So I would love to sit with them and the person. I think kids being involved in their parents' health care is very important. I also think it's very important that they know who I am. If something happens to them, they have to know who to call. Unbelievable amount of life insurance policies are not paid out. They didn't know they had them. They need to know who these people are, because that is who is going to be there to guide them through this process, because they just had a death and they're emotionally thinking. So it's very important that you talk to somebody you trust. Please make sure they're licensed, not just volunteered. Volunteers are wonderful, but they're different. Licensed people are held to a different level of expectations, okay?
I was just about ready to say that, and it usually makes a few people mad. Please do not use volunteers for your very important medical insurance. The few hours of training that they had does not prepare them to help you make great decisions, and they're not going to be there to fix problems for you. So use a professional. It doesn't cost anything. Okay, so are there any volunteers practicing law out there? Okay. All right, we'll do a question. Okay, let's hear it.
Real quick, I have a comment. I have 3 adult children. My husband has 3 adult children. We took an assessment of who was most qualified to be the executor, and we went with our son-in-law instead of our children, who has the banking background. Parent or family has Legacy Bank here, and he's also got a financial degree. So you don't always have to go within your immediate children. So we have a great son-in-law. And my question for Amy, who got the bunny suit?
Well, here pretty soon, our clients will receive the bunny suit.
Very good. So sometimes, the kids want unusual things. I just talked to a lady the other day, and she said, she was hoping that her family was going to take most of the stuff in her house. Do you think that's going to happen? And they're going to want surprising things, probably, not what she thinks. All right. Do we have somebody that has a burning question? Last one on the mic, and then you can ask your questions individually and put them on the evaluation forms. Any more questions? Okay. For a second there, I thought we answered every single question y'all were thinking. Now, if you think you have a question, but you don't want to say it out loud, sometimes those are the best questions. They help other people. Okay. Terry Brooks, the question is, what time is the Chef Greg Cole Time Management Seminar? Do you have some flyers? Okay, so Terry Brooks, she's the Director of Development at PBS, and she has flyers. Yes?
Real quick, it's October 19th, 6 o'clock, but I'll pass some flyers out. It's a seminar called Time Management for the Busy Senior. Greg Cole is going to be there from 6 to 7, and I'm inviting all of you to come and be part of the live audience. We're going to tape that show, and we're going to make a pledge drive program out of it in December, but you'll be part of a live audience, which is very cool, at our new studio. So I'll pass these out. Can I just put them on the tables?
Yes. I was going to suggest that. Take it around to the tables. Professional have a burning question or story to share. Be sure to see Pam. She's got snacks. All right. Hey, how do you like the snacks and the coffee today? Okay. All right, grab his mic.
Okay, very quick story. So when I talked about making sure that you talk to a licensed person versus a volunteer, this is a true story. Had a client that wasn't a client come to me. They went to a volunteer, got some advice. That volunteer said, okay, you have your health insurance you want to get. You have a very small 401k. It was about $35,000, $40,000. The volunteer told that person to spend that 401k down to zero on their health care costs and premiums. Once they did that, then they could apply for CanCare. Yeah, guess what? Not happening. When I met that person, And they told me that. Unfortunately, my face speaks before my mouth does. And she was like, is that bad? And I said, okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, CanCare will not accept you because your Social Security, which is not going to go backwards, will not let you qualify for CanCare. And if they would have taken that advice and spending that little money that they had in their name on their health care costs, they would have had nothing, and they still wouldn't have qualified for CanCare. Medicaid, I'm sorry if nobody knows what that is. Medicaid, state. So those are the things that you have to think about. And if you have any questions about anything, somebody tells you, whether it's a friend, over the phone, it doesn't matter, call Medicare directly. You can talk to them. Call a licensed person. But that was my story. I couldn't believe it, and thank goodness she did become my client. So did her boss, which is the person who used the volunteer, and we saved it.
A good deal. Okay, so some people are going to end up on Medicaid, CanCare, when it comes to where they live eventually. They'll go through their money, and that is a very tricky thing. Let us visit with you in advance to make sure that when you're making a choice on where you want to live, that it's helping the clock start ticking. For example, Prairie Homestead is a nice, affordable community, and if you move into an independent home, a duplex or twin home there, it starts the clock. So that 24 months later, if you need to be Medicaid and assisted living, they count that time. But if you'd gone somewhere else, maybe you're just renting a duplex somewhere for $1,500 from an individual person, it doesn't start anything going. And so where you move matters. And if you make your downsizing moves while you're still a go-go senior or a slow-go senior, it's going to prevent some of the problems that come up down the line too. So it is something to think about in advance. And with that, we're just a little bit over. So we're going to close. Did you learn something today? Okay, so we're going to get a quick photo with the panel. Delno, let's have you all come here to the flag and get a photo. Next month, we're going to do the truth about legacy and positively impacting the next generation. You do not want to miss that. So sometimes people say, well, I didn't think that would be one that would apply to me, but I came anyway, and it's the best one I've ever been to. So make sure you come next month. All right, we're going to do photo, and then you can grab the attorneys, the financial advisors, ask some questions, visit with Pam Crawford back there, and all of the professionals in the room. And thank you so much. We'll see you next month.